Welcome to Megapath Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk Preacher Season 1, Episode 6, called Sundowner. Yeah, I know, I'm late. I'm really late. I was trying to catch up on videos, and then 4th of July weekend came. I totally forgot they were even going to air it because Outcast didn't air, and I just assumed, like an ass. I forgot, to be honest. I just forgot about Preacher. And I didn't have the motivation to watch it the next day. And then I was really busy 2 days after that, so I just didn't have the fucking motivation. So finally I got so many messages. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch it. And here's the thing. I'm not really into supernatural shit that much. You know, not all that much. It's kind of I have to be in the mood. But when I watched this episode, I was like, yeah, this is fun. This is a fun episode, you know? And it is a fun show. I do really enjoy watching it. I am more into the dark, gritty, serious type of shows, you know? To be pretty generic, I'm really into the dark and serious. However, this show, I can enjoy this the way I enjoy, like, a Quentin Tarantino movie. Yeah, that's actually a really good description for me, personally. But anyway, so in this episode, we get more of the angels and that shit. We get more of the preacher coming to the realization that, holy fuck, this is real. Because even in the beginning, he didn't even believe it. When they shot that chick, you have humor in the entire intro. They shoot the chick, preacher sitting there, and he's just in shock. They're loading a body, and he's like, you killed the chick. And they're like, no, we didn't. He's like, the body's right there, you know? And then we get, also as viewers, we get the reveal of what happens when they die. They just reappear in random places, oftentimes in the area or close by to where they died. And I thought that was a little different, slightly underwhelming, but still cool, you know? And I feel like it's kind of a cheat, you know? It's a little bit of a cheat to be like, they just fucking reappear. But again, you know, it's to say don't take it seriously and you can enjoy it. I feel like it simultaneously is a cop-out, but also is a pretty good way to describe this type of entertainment. I say it's a cop-out because you take everything seriously, you know what I mean? What does it mean to not take it seriously, to shut off your brain? It's kind of like a cop-out. I know I've said that a couple times to different shows, but with this, you know, it has that vibe to it where it's like, yeah, don't take it serious, sit down and chill. And what I mean by don't take it serious, if I could clarify, is like they die and just reappear, whatever. Don't look into it like scientifically how is that possible, or, you know, realistically how is that. Don't take it that serious. That's all I mean by that. But I'm not trying to use that as a cop-out, because at times that could be a cop-out. So we get a lot of humor, and we get that really awesome fight scene in the beginning, which, again, with Preacher, some of the fight scenes, I feel like they have so much potential, but sometimes it maxes out at 80%. It's like having a really rough work day and just cutting corners to get around it. They had something really special, I felt. In the hotel fight scene, the camera was panning back, and it was going through the hole in the wall, and we see the dead body of the being, the angel or whatever, in the other room. They had something there. I don't know. For some reason, it just didn't hit with the fighting. I did get a message beforehand, and people were like, oh, angels and demons were fighting and all this shit in the beginning, and I'm thinking of in heaven we were going to get this weird opening. So that was another reason why I wasn't that motivated to watch this episode, but in actuality, it was only the two angels we know of on Earth, Preacher, and then this other angel that is hunting the other two angels down. They called it something. It starts with a C. I know the word, but I forget what it is. And then Cassidy shows up. Almost forgot his name. He shows up, and that was funny because they almost have the angel tied up and subdued, and then he shows up and he just pops it in the head, and they all look up like, oh, come on. All right, so moving on after that fun intro, where I did write down to specifically talk about how it was fun. Cassidy here, when he gets caught, kind of, sort of, when he and Tulip meet up, and he's like, oh, you're his Tulip, that makes sense, whoop-de-whoop, that's my kind of luck. When they closed the door for a moment there, it gave the vibe like Preacher felt like his presence or something. Maybe they were playing around with that idea. And then Preacher leaves, and the camera lingers on him. I know we all seen it. And it gave this feel that Cassidy did mention earlier. He's like, oh, nothing, like randomly. He was like, I fell in love with this chick, fell out a window, shit like that. but Cassidy clowns around so much, we don't know when to take him serious. You know what I mean? And then later on, when the camera lingers on him, you're like, ooh, man, that stings a little. You know, he has that sting. And at first, I did not know they were going to do this kind of three-way love triangle. I know a couple people mentioned in the comics that's a part of the story. I don't know how much, so I can't really talk on it as far as what's in the comic. But again, fuck what they did. That was such a cheap way to do it, where Tulip is just getting, bent over and banged out, and then now, no, and she had this expression on her face like, oh, just get it over with. And yes, that is what they were going with, for whatever fucking reason. But now you have this scene, and if they are going to build up to a love triangle, it seems more like, Tulip doesn't want anything to do with Cassidy, but Cassidy has a thing for her. That's the kind of vibe I got out of it. Fuck it. I just don't like it. I don't like it. I just want them to do something different with Tulip. She's a really badass character. I even like her spazzing out on Emily. I keep forgetting that chick's name. I think it was Emily. Breaks her kid's creative thing, rock, dragon, yellow, ashtray, or whatever it was. Like, I like that sort of stuff, but I want her to have a little bit more other than being there as an object in between the two characters, Give her something badass. I know we'll probably get it, but I'm just saying. Anyway, moving on to Eugene. A lot of credit with the actor here. He does a lot with his eyes. Now, in acting, you hear this all the time in behind-the-scenes stuff where actors will turn down roles if there's a mask or a half a mask, because probably because it covers up their face, and it's not as especially if it covers up their face and they're not out there as much. That's why you see a lot of these superheroes that have masks where in the contract it's like, make sure half of the fucking movie has me, in suit without a mask. I think that was even in Batman once. That's why he rips off his mask. But anyway, the older Batmans, some shit like that. But it's really hard besides the ego shit where it's like, I want my face on the big screen. Besides that shit, there's also the fact that it's harder to act with a half mask on. And I know Bane, Tom Hardy, got a lot of credit for The Dark Knight Rises because he did a lot of good acting through just his eyes alone. Eugene, the actor playing him, he has that same obstacle to hurdle because he has this ass on his face and there's not a lot of expression there except for drool. That's pretty much it, and that's not really that expressive. It's pretty disgusting. I can't eat when he speaks. I'm sorry, Eugene. You're a nice guy, but you fucking disgust me. Anyway, so he has to do a lot of acting with his eyes, and he kills it because he has the worry, the concern, he looks frightened, fidgety. He's doing all this with his eyes, essentially, because he's got a fucking asshole on his face. And it's great. And then when they're luring him, they have this misdirect. The kids are nice and Eugene's cautious. And then the kids take him to this tunnel. And it's kind of like, there's like a doom at the end of the tunnel. You get this vibe. It's like foreboding. He's going down there. And you just know it's going to go bad. Somewhere along the lines, it'll go bad. Don't go in that fucking tunnel. You have a guy with an asshole on his face, and he's about to walk into the asshole. He's about to step into some shit, But it's not. They let off fireworks, and you went from this moment of, impending doom to beautiful fireworks. And then you could see it in Eugene's face. It was like this relief, this beauty. He was loving it. I really like what they did with Eugene in that one little aspect, But then we go later on in the episode, and this is where I feel like this episode turned Preacher into kind of a fucking asshole. He was being a prick to Eugene. He's overconfident. He's too cocky. He wouldn't give Genesis back to two angels. He wouldn't right that wrong. He knows it's a mistake. He's in denial, but he's being such an asshole. But again, the supernatural shit lost me when he told Eugene to go to hell. How does one go to hell? I understand, the guy where he says, open your heart, and he literally opens his heart, and the other guy, I don't know, obey God, and he kills those Greenpeace people or whatever. I get, they're actually physically doing it. How does one go to hell? That's where they lost me, or I was like, oh, fucking, that's too much, Can he just order someone to bring Eugene back from hell? That seems like a pretty big power. That would be like me, shit out $1 million. Imagine if he said that to somebody. Would they physically shit out $1 million? Because now I think that's possible, because Eugene literally went to hell, or at least that's what it made it seem. Anyway, so that's where they lost me a little. I thought this power was people physically having the ability to do shit like this, you know, like you've seen it already. I don't need to give you guys more examples, but that's kind of just where they lost me. But again, at the end of this episode, I had a lot of fun. I still now will stay on track with Preacher. When it airs, I'll definitely have the review up by the next day. And also, fuck, I lost my train of thought. Oh, that's what it was. I had a lot of fun with this episode, but this episode made me started feeling like Jesse, the preacher, the main character, who had a certain charisma and something I liked about him. I kind of thought he was an asshole. So I'm really hoping he's going to redeem himself. I am really hoping that the ramifications of sending Eugene, as far as like his internal turmoil or torment, you know, his inner judgment, I'm hoping the ramifications of sending Eugene to hell is that Preacher is going to stop being a fucking asshole. Because I started liking him, but in this episode it kind of spun it around a little bit, like, whoa, Preacher, fall back some. You're being a dick. Anyway, what did you guys think of this episode? Put your thoughts and opinions down in that comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.